Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief Recap. Dun dun dun. We started this, I guess, about about quarter to 11, so we're pretty much through. Daily Brief Recap. Hey, we're live on YouTube. That's good to hear. Pretty much through a good portion of the trading day here. But on Mondays, we have both our chief technology officer, Sjord, Captain Pancakes, come give us a report from the Netherlands. And as you can see, he's working away on the engine. Technically, our live date is scheduled for January 1st, so he's still in his beta mode, and he did an update to the engine, so as a result, the data's down for the time being. So we can't really talk off of that page too much today, but I think I had been explaining on the free videos that I do on the weekend, put together this fun little matrix of this particular page is the S&P 100 stocks, the Dow Industrials, Transports, and Utilities. So it gives you a pretty good sort of framework of the broader, bigger cap market and how they're feeling right now. And clearly the theme of the day, as you can see, is the airline stocks are catching nice bids. Although, I'm not really getting like double bottom breakouts, nice little inside bar reversal. So the little day traders, they probably got a nice little long entry there earlier this morning. But I don't know. I mean, I look at these airline stocks, and I'm also long some of the cruise line stocks. Same sort of thing. They're just bumping along the bottom here, trying to actually ask whether they really want to turn back up. But it is interesting right out of the gate. First thing Monday morning, we see the airline stocks here are catching a bid. The interesting thing about that, though, is that you can even see these candles that were stronger in the day. They're just turning into dojis now. So not overly exciting. And also too, I thought it was interesting. And when we do like valuation perspective, if I do something like potential profit size. Just from simple things like 50% bounces. Ironically enough, the oil stocks actually are pretty darn cheap. So we got Oxypete, of course, which is a pretty favorite one by institutional players. Schlumberger. Interesting how Raytheon. Interesting also too. That's I find that very interesting. UAL actually comes up as a pretty good potential buy. Oh, interesting. There's American Airlines. So now this is odd, right? You've got airlines, which are catching a nice bid here today, that are suggesting that, hey, there's probably some money to be made here. And then also oil stocks. Schlumberger is actually up on the day. It's showing actually a pretty good profit potential there. So fascinating market state. And I don't really see anything breaking out here. And if we look at the broader market, I mean, here we are up at the top end of the range. So I don't really see a massive breakout. And I think if we look at like other, like the junior stock market, we're just sort of bumping along right up at the top end of the range. So, I've often said recently that I'm a little concerned about things like this election coming up here in a couple weeks. Does it really make sense that the stock market's going to like give a new buy signal heading into that event, or is this maybe the end of the move and kind of like blow off toppy? And I like that blow off toppy kind of thinking. I went on length yesterday on the Broiler Chicken show about what are the tax implications if Mr. Biden and the Democrats come storming into power here in November. So be forewarned. For the purposes of your conversation here, I like to keep it relatively simple, just to about, like 4 or 5 different markets. Always right out of the gate, we like to look at the U.S. dollar index. I get the impression that the dollar index is parked here in a wider trading range. Now we're just sort of banging around within a smaller trading range, within a larger trading range, and I get the feeling it's going to be a lot of chop here. We just got a new inside bar sell signal right out of the gate here, first thing Monday morning. That technically should be a risk on, excuse me, vote. And interestingly enough, too, we've been sort of looking forward to some conferences by the IMF with regard to cryptocurrencies. And where the hell do I have that? I guess I can just show you over here. I was tweeting out lots, set your watch and all that kind of talk to Mr. Powell. From what I understand, Mr. Powell did just basically a really sort of scripted statement. But what was really interesting was to listen to the conversation on the other side of that basic statement. Listening to things like this was a kind of a round table, virtual style kind of conversation amongst, some very, very intelligent people. And the basic message I got was, it's not a question of can you stop crypto. Crypto's here. It is the future. It's coming a million miles an hour, whether you like it or not. So just how do we create a framework where these classic fiat currency systems can interact, and we have some like industry standardization kind of stuff. I would encourage you to listen to that conversation. And there was also really some great like nuances between sort of like old world dinosaur fiat, sort of institutional type thinking. You can really hear it in one gentleman in particular, versus another gentleman who was a child through sort of the classic fiat currency system world, and him sort of saying, "Okay, boomer, your time is done. You don't quite understand what's happening here. We're moving forward with this. The world is moving forward with this. So you probably ought to figure out a way to sort of get on board here, or you're just going to be left behind." I thought that was fascinating. Anyway, point here is that I've often suggested that I like crypto as a leading indicator in the market. I think to a certain degree crypto was waiting for that IMF conversation and the sort of rants. What I told the community this morning was I was just really worried that these guys would come out and shit on this space, and that's the last thing we want to hear. In late 2017, early 2018, and then through all that stupid Facebook Libra nonsense, all I heard was shit, 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 shit. And sure enough, crypto went down, 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 down. I didn't hear that today. I actually heard very bullish conversation. So how ironic, on the heels of that, the crypto market is starting to come back when even pieces of crap like XDN start rallying. Which I find hilarious because this was the very first cryptocurrency that I bought when I did my little 500 into hundreds of thousands of dollars nonsense there a few years ago. And we did very, very well on this move. But it's fascinating. I mean, if you're wanting to watch this video feed and learn to make money from trading, look at that image and just remember one very simple expression. This one expression will make you a lot of money in this world. Do you want to know what that expression is? Do you? Maybe we should just end the video here. I don't know. What do you think, Kevin? Should we just call it a day? No, okay, fine. We'll tell you the goddamn expression. The longer the channel, the bigger the run. Write it down. Staple it in your forehead. And I gotta tell you, folks, that is one hell of a long channel. I don't know what's going to happen here, but I'll tell you. I mean, I've already got a lot of this thing, and a lot of it's free, banging out double sell, having double that nonsense, right? So I certainly don't need any more. But I'm tempted to go grab some more of that thing down here. So it's such a great analogy of, the crypto space. And We were banging out doubles and just owning this son of a bitch the whole way up, and it paid us very, very nicely. Ironically enough, actually, if you listen to the comments, people are actually like, this isn't a half bad project. So that's the irony of it all. And what do you think? Are institutional players owning this asset from these levels? I think so. Anyway, so what was the point I wanted to get to all this? What I see is this image. We got sort of, and it is probably the theme of 2020. We got a little bit of a head fake out of a risk, flashed an M and said, hey, I'm not so happy. And then we've quickly and violently turned back up to the upside. That's a very bullish sign. So my hunch is actually stocks are probably going to do somewhat along the same lines here. We'll see what happens. Do you see it interesting that gold tried to move higher here today, but ran into just a whack of resistance? We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But I have to tell you, that's a pretty compelling message. The only problem here, of course, is, can I buy that up there? I was, why don't we go back to our little deck here, and then we'll just sort of walk through the story the way I'm supposed to. So, inside bar failure on US dollar, that technically should be risk on. It's interesting to see how stocks, and we've kind of talked about this recently, the risk on, risk off assets are getting kind of disconnected here a bit lately. I think that's a function of this 2020 Jupiter-Saturn event here in November, December. So call me crazy, but that's what I think's going on. Stocks appear heavy. Now remember, too, this is actually like the anniversary of a big stock market crash. Dow loses 500 points. I think it was the 87 crash happened today. So I would imagine there's a bunch of people going, ooh, is that going to happen today? I don't know. Anytime you have a really strong market into October, anyway, you got to be a little jaundiced. But I do find it interesting. U.S. dollar index coming off, stocks are coming off too. That usually doesn't happen. Oil, back up top end of range. Remember we kind of said, we had short ideas working, but maybe we'll just hop off and let this thing develop a little bit more. It looks to me, again, with the U.S. dollar index down, that should be a risk on. Oil up day. It's up a little bit, but not a hell of a lot. Bonds kind of just parked. Again, don't want to sound like a broken record, but here we go. U.S. dollar index down. That should be a risk on day, which means we should see bonds down. So actually, that's correct. Imagine that. There's actually one that's correct. So we actually have the oil to a very small degree and the bonds acting correctly. We've talked a little bit about gold here recently, kind of just sort of stuck in the mud. I'm sure they did not like, the gold bugs, I'm sure they did not like to hear that talk out of the IMF today. I mean, they are talking central bank cryptocurrencies are coming. And they were all sort of like, and also too, remember, IMF, right, big institution, they move slow as snails. So in essence, basically what they said today was this is our sort of initial working group, working papers, exploration group, but the long and short of it is the ball is starting to roll, which can't be good for the gold bugs. I'm sure they're probably not liking this one bit. I saw a really interesting side article that Mr. Peter Schiff, who was a big gold bug here, really touting the shit out of gold lately. I heard that he's actually in some pretty hot water with like tax evasion and stuff of late. How ironic. The end of the last cycle saw a massive scandal in the gold industry to mark the bottom in the gold. I wonder if we get a big massive scandal at the top of the gold market to mark the top. Anyway, I did find that interesting. I have no idea what bearing it has on price action going forward. As it stands right now, if you are a gold bull and you're sort of, I want to get, buy signals and I want to get back on the long side, well, we got to be watching this this cute little bot setup if we do a B, C, D. So that's basically saying I got to watch about 1950, 1960, somewhere in there. And that makes sense too, right? Because this is where the whoever the institutional players were that stopped this counter trend rally attempt, you can see clearly they stepped in hard right off of this level. And that's actually interesting because Bitcoin's playing with a level like this right now as we speak. So we got one low, we got two lows, we got three lows. Okay, I don't really like it when they set up so sharply like this, because you might even argue that that's just one low off of this trend line. If we break this, my hunch is we have to come back down, swim against these levels, and really what I want to see is something like that. So we'll see how this goes. Only time will tell. Nothing for me to do in the gold market right now, and a couple of the little junior gold stocks I would like to buy are too expensive, so if anything I wouldn't mind the gold market calming down a little bit so those prices could come down a bit. Of course I'm not selling anything on a double today in gold land. So I was interested to see that with the S&Ps coming off here, our little junior stock market versus senior stock market actually is working towards the juniors' favor. They're feeling relatively okay. Not huge runaway bulls, but I mean, they're hanging in. I don't know if the junior market is as risky as the big market here. You see, if we lose this neckline on the S&Ps, next support's down in this area here, eh? These tails in here. Does the like if we look at the junior stock market index, just for conversation, IWM, oh yeah, that's looking a bit heavy too, eh? So maybe just leave that thing alone. I don't know whether I'm going to be buying too much new stock here right now. I got a feeling I'm just going to be cooling my jets for a lot for the next sort of week or two here into this election. We'll see what happens. If I happen to have little junior stocks that pop, great, wonderful, awesome. But I've sort of tempered my enthusiasm until I start seeing some cleaner setups. Kevin did have a name or two, and we'll have our TRI SOF meeting tomorrow, so you never know. They might change my mind. But on balance, I'm not overly optimistic about junior stocks right now. It's just sort of like they're there. Heading on over to the corn, as I had sort of said earlier, I think we had a big sort of fundamental catalyst that people were kind of humming and hawing. How was the market going to behave into that event? I was talking yesterday to you guys about GAN levels and how I kind of thought this 8-to-1 here has not been traded to, so we could still work our way higher. I'd also drawn out some bot levels and said, we had these GAN angles here that I think are in play right now. We'll see how the price acts. It's pulling back here a little bit in the short term. We might just clean right through here and head up top. I guess the point that I would make is that yesterday I had sort of said in the public video that I just didn't like the way this set up, and I really couldn't take that trade. This is just like the gold I show you. I mean, does the gold do this? It might. But you see, yes, 1, 2, 3 higher lows and a pseudo double bottom off of the 25 on a trendline break. But I hate that when they do this. So as a result, I've done nothing here. Could I see price work its way up top here? Sure. I don't see any reason why not. Bot's sort of working its way. Interesting enough, had you taken this bot, we've moved stop to move the market up to move stop to scratch. So what that literally means, and you can kind of see it with the GAN angles here, if we lose these levels here, then it means whatever this rally was, it's probably done, right? And the Fed announcement, that was Fed announcement, and let's see, I'm getting red flashing, so I don't know whether YouTube's even recording this or not, but I hope so. But if we lose these GAN angles and have to dip down in here, then it means this was a buy the rumor into that IMF event, sell the news. So unfortunately, I can't even take this bot now, even if it does come back down here. But you know, those people that did take it, you're long from what 1150, sitting up about $300. Way to go! I guess what about 250 now. Stops are at scratch, and you're looking for that 1240 area. You'll start being able to lock in profits if we can get up into this 66%. Call it, let's say, a tag at 12,000. Unfortunately, like I said, there just wasn't a setup for me to trade. There was a setup that did come in, though. I do remember yesterday we had a long conversation about this doji here. And this is also a great analogy that there's a million different ways to skin this cat. So this particular setup, I didn't really have anything. But I think I was, yeah. So, you know, if you happen to be like a volatility measure fan, these are what are called Bollinger Bands. John Bollinger, a guy I highly respect in the industry, developed this study of standard deviation. And the simple message, I walked everybody through the video in the, I think it was the broiler chickens, or maybe it was last week, I can't remember. But in essence, when the bands contract like this, that's actually a tell that, hey, you know, pay attention. Something's about to happen here. And we talked how we got to close above the band here on Bitcoin. And then, you know, we resolved this big honkin' doji bar action to the upside. That was pretty bullish signal. What do you think? Would that be a respectable trade setup to consider for your trading plan? It's up to you, really. You know, these principles generally work, but nothing's ever 100%. What I would say on something like this is it probably had a good, you know, 60-70%, somewhere in that neighborhood, chance of working. So here's an example where, you know, if you just, I think it's a good idea to wait for a close outside of the bands to actually consider taking one of these squeeze setups. But if you just bought this big W here, wrist against the lows, well, proof of the pudding's in the eating, as they say. So, you know, that, I think, is basically the story of Bitcoin right now. And we had talked about how they had washed out those guys. There's like, you know, the people that run these markets, they washed all the weekends through here because they knew some sort of big move was coming. So you can also use these big honking doji indecision bars, especially if you see it on like a, where was that chart? Right here. This is a 4-hour chart. Look at that doji bar there, right? So that was all that stopwatch crap. The Bollinger Band resolution, and away it goes. So, what else should we talk about today? And the rest of the crypto market, you know, like I think Bitcoin was the main driver here. It's interesting how on Bitcoin it looks like we just hit a foggy level. So I might even argue that this needed to get hit before this move was done. So the foggy level there, that's sick when this shit happens. I mean, that's ridiculous. I hate when he's this right. Drives you nuts. So all I did was I just said, okay, there's the W. There is the right-hand side of the consolidation. This is the energy that the market's built up. The market breaks out through the top, and Mr. Feigenbaum says that this is where the market will lose the majority of its energy that it built up through here. And look at that. 11,836, and today's high is 1140 on the nose. That's ridiculous. So, you know, take it for whatever it's worth. It looks to me like Foggy's now been traded to, so he's happy. I guess the question also too, interesting how that's right up against an 88.6 of this range. Also too, you've heard me talk about candle body highs for trade location. So I wouldn't be surprised, actually, if we could stab up just a bit higher. We're into chaos now, and what usually happens around chaos is things get extremely chaotic. It would be perfect for the institutional guys if you get, like, absolute chaos and disorder. Of course, the public, they go all apeshit on the bull side right up into here, and they are working big sell orders trying to get filled on that level. So let's keep an eye on that over the next few days. I have a feeling that that's a trade level that we probably should pay attention to. We'll put even like a little highlighter on there, and we'll see what price did around that level. My hunch is we've got a lot of work to do on that level. We'll see. So, with that said, didn't really hear anything out of central bankers or anything about things like altcoins. Not too much. On balance, what I'm seeing is... where's the image I want to show you? Also, too, is really interesting for whatever it's worth on that Bitcoin rally. We rallied right into an arc. This is a speed bump, what we call a speed bump, and really you should, the rule that we have at TRI is for all the level 2ers. You should be working level 2ers. Yeah, you should be still working with the angles. But in essence, oh Jesus, damn drawing tool. There is that 1 to 3 line right there that you see over here. So I think that's it, but I could be mistaken. Anyway, point here is we did hit an arc, and our rule is that we want to see a W on the other side of the arc to believe this. So I'm not totally convinced that this is broken out. And we are banging up into some interesting... I guess that's not... What is that? What does that say? That says a 2 to 1 off of that high. But I don't know. I think maybe this study was off of a different high. That must have been off of that high there. I don't know. Anyway, I'm wasting your time. Sorry, everyone. Market's pointing higher. But as I kind of said there a moment ago, I don't really see it too much in the altcoins. It's almost felt like they were just sort of being dragged up with the market, which is good. I mean, I'd rather see the market move up than down. Probably, watch your Litecoins. Probably watch how, or altcoins, watch how Litecoin resolves this down trend line here. Do we break out of it? And then our rule is, can I get a W on the other side of this trend line? So actually, that Litecoin line looks pretty important. If this really is a bull, we'll get on the other side of this. We'll W out, probably W out and fill in all of this. Market accepts above value, and away we go, a new bull market. That's asking a lot. So it's still way too early to have any conclusions there. And then I think also too, like remember we'd been, I don't know whether I talked about this with the public. I know we have one site gentleman, Colin, who talks a lot about this. But the dominance has been very kind of, hey, I'm actually favoring Bitcoin right now. Yeah, so that's still working away. We have this, Colin does up this really cool study where, I don't know whether this is right, but you can clearly see here this red box. This is where Bitcoin was dominating the alts, and we get a funny feeling that we're heading into one of these dominating the alts sort of environments. I don't know how long this lasts. As it stands right now, we put in a W, and the dominator is doing its job. My hunch is probably this midpoint probably acts as some sort of pivot here. So that's still pointing towards Bitcoin dominating. And I showed you, that the Litecoin chart, it has not broken out while Bitcoin has. Ethereum's kind of just stuck in the mud right now. And that's sort of the market that I see. Not really bull, not really bear, just sort of parked. And, probably most important for this summer, sort of what was the driver this summer to cause the cryptocurrencies to do what they did. This whole DeFi conversation, has anything actually really changed here of late? And the answer, simply put, in my eyes, is no. So, still making lower highs and lower lows. We could potentially start turning back up here, but you can't really put the cart before the horse. So we're still pointing down. I would expect these lows to be tested. And maybe on that final capitulation, Bitcoin dominance, right? It pops up top or something, and the DeFis just puke out with Ethereum or something along those lines. Maybe that ultimately marks our capitulation bottom. Probably right now, if anything, what I'd be thinking if I was trading this and following it actively, probably something like AEB. Excuse me. ZD takes us down into here, which I've been sort of thinking, like we are making lower lows, so would it make sense for us to make a lower low here? Sure, why not? So we'll keep an eye on that, see how that does over the next little while, but I think that's that would be my general thinking. So, all right, there's your market summary, folks. Sure hope you got some value out of that. Frankly, I don't know how relevant these studies are here. But I really do like it, especially for the current level tours, because they're doing angles this week. I really do like following along this one. And, as I said, I think we're going vibrational signature off at 25 to 1. So I have that set at 25 to 1, which gives me a study that looks something along these lines. So right now, I would feel comfortable looking for this 12.4. I don't see any reason why not. The only question here is this rally done in the short term, or do we have to just take a pause? And actually, probably technicians watch the confluence of these two angles, and if the market can just come in here and just politely put in a nice bottom, oh boy, that would be awesome. So, okay, I think I'll leave the video at that. Sure hope you got some value out of it. All the best, and bye for now.